I'm Michael Killen. California and France are both about the same size economically. Both of them have a climate change plan. Both of them want to be a world leader for their plan. On this show, I have invited a dear friend of mine, Alex Canara. He is an environmental, energy, climate change expert on many, many aspects of that particular issue. I'm going to ask him a series of questions about France's climate change policy and their direction. And then I'm going to ask him a couple of other questions where we might compare what France is doing with what California is doing. Alex.
Michael, thank you for having me.
Alex Canara. Do I pronounce that correctly?
Very good.
And first of all, you are a great advocate for what kind of technology?
Well, good technology.
And what is good technology?
It depends on the application, but for energy, I'm definitely an advocate for clean technology like nuclear power, hydroelectric, and geothermal.
And I would put you in the category as probably one of the most knowledgeable persons, strongest advocates for nuclear energy I have ever met. But tonight, and we're coming from Palo Alto right now, this program, I'd like to leave that topic aside, and I want to learn, my audience wants to learn a bit about France's climate change plan. And can you tell me right now maybe two of the most interesting developments of their plan?
Thank you. Well, definitely today, their goal is to electrify transportation because transportation is one of the largest contributors to greenhouse gas production. And as part of that, in the future, they want to also eliminate their own exploitation of fossil fuels within their territories.
Let me stop you there. Are you saying, well, first of all, the first part is they want to electrify, in other words, take petroleum out of the petroleum sector, the transportation sector. We want to do that too in California. Right. But they want to stop drilling, digging for coal, gas, and oil in that great country of France and its territories wherever they might be around the world. Is that right?
Yes, right. And I think Macron has recently, as the Davos conference, said that they want to eliminate all their coal power plants for generating electricity by 2020 or thereabouts.
So when I hear what you said about France wants to stop drilling, and I guess that means off the coast of France also, if they do any of it at all right now, coal and digging for gas. Mm-hmm. And then we in the United States, we seem to be arguing over opening up monuments and vast protected areas of our land, as well as drilling for oil off the coast of California and Massachusetts. It's a little different situation, isn't it?
Yes, well, of course, our country has, I think, a very different set of influences in terms of corporations and the money that's applied to the political sphere in particular. So, I mean, France has like most of Europe, has a very different political structure and how they develop their plans, what to do.
Okay, so I think I've read by 2040, there will be no more drilling for fossil carbon-based fuels in France.
Right.
I mean,
that's the current plan.
That's something, that says something about where the French and, you know, the rest of the world is going. And they seem to be going to leave the carbon in the ground.
Right. And if you look at the overall world, the environmental situations in the world and the reality of where that carbon storage came from, we couldn't burn it all anyway. There's not enough oxygen produced on Earth to be able to burn all that carbon.
Well, that's good, isn't it?
So now if we want to suffocate everybody, then we keep doing it, but we can't.
And they want to stop selling cars.
Yes, yes. Well, cars that burn any fuel any combustion fuel.
And I think by 2040, if we go over to Paris and we wanted to buy a Renault, whatever they make these days, we would not be able to buy a petroleum-based car.
Well, even if you could, you probably wouldn't have any place to fill it up in France, if their goal is met.
Yes, but in saying that, it tells me even though you said if their goal is met, if their goal is not met, if it's not 2040, it could be 2035, it could be 2050.
Right.
But you're telling us that the future is not in gasoline for cars.
Yes, and I think companies like ExxonMobil and so forth have known this for a long time. In fact, there was an interview by BP manager, I think, in Scotland a year or so ago, and he was talking about how they were retraining their workers because the North Sea oil fields were going to be depleted by a certain date, and what he said to the interviewer was, yes, when we're teaching that, we're arranging for them to learn about other energy realms, including nuclear power.
Okay, now this is an unfair statement, I think. Now, as I preface, California wants to be a world leader in slowing greenhouse gas emissions,
Right.
slowing the impact, reducing the impact of greenhouse gases. And our governor has not said that by 2040 we will no longer be drilling, we will not be driving cars in California that need gasoline. So in this respect, in that particular category, France is more of a leader than the state of California. Would you?
Yes, yeah, and they have been for many years, because during the OPEC crisis and embargo in the 1970s, what California did was to try to increase its energy efficiency, reduce its consumption of petroleum. But what France did was even more aggressive than that. They simply said, we're not going to use any more petroleum from those regions of the world, and we're going to produce our electricity in a petroleum and carbon-free way, and that's their nuclear plan, which has been very successful.
Okay, so 10, 15 years ago, the Schwarzenegger days, our thinking, the thinkers here in this state realized the emissions was causing a problem, and we decided to do something about it, and it was energy efficiency, conservation.
Yes. Right.
And what else did we rely on?
Well, we tried to improve the mileage requirements for cars and the pollution requirements, which we've been very successful at. We did all those things in California. But energy efficiency only goes so far, because you're aiming for, you can't go to zero use of energy if you're going to use energy for any application at all. So energy efficiency is a tapering off kind of thing.
Yeah, so
That's the problem.
I think you've made a provocative statement, because as I look at California's plan, they are relying heavily on increased energy efficiency.
Right.
And you're saying we've already pushed that solution a lot, and it's going to be harder to get more energy efficiency. Is that correct?
Right, exactly. Because in the 1970s, Art Rosenfeld was in charge of the plan, and the California Energy Commission, to increase energy efficiency, and he was a hero, basically, and our laws, like AB 32, caused us to, unlike other states in the Union, have a flat energy use per capita from the late 1970s onward. And that was a heroic effort, basically. Building efficiency, energy efficiency in general. But you can only go so far, because, for instance, lighting used to be about 8% of a home's energy consumption. okay, so then you go to compact fluorescence, and now it's cut down to maybe half of that. And now you go to LED lighting, and now it's cut down to maybe, 2/3 of that. You're never going to get to zero because you want the energy to make the light.
Okay.
So it's a limited plan.
Okay. So it happens to be very important for me to understand that it's going to be more difficult than ever for California to reduce greenhouse gases because it's already played the energy efficiency card.
Yes.
It's got to play it again, but maybe it's no longer going to be an ace. It might be a 10 or a jack. And I think you've also made the point that France hasn't played that card, the
Right.
energy efficiency.
Right.
They played a technology card.
Right. We have a slide for that if you,
Well,
when you
why
want to put
don't-
it up.
Would you like your slide to come up,
Sure.
Alex?
I have it right here if you can't get it up.
Could we bring up the slide, please? And, okay, Alex, okay.
Oops,
No,
backwards.
the first slide, please.
There you
All right.
go.
Alex, would I be correct to say,
Nope, back. Got to go back one. There, no, back one. Back two, back another one. Stay there.
that's good. Let's stay there. Alex, this is a slide.
Oh, something's automatic. Looks like Microsoft has taken over. There we go. If we got to keep that, glue it to the
Okay,
TV screen.
let's steady. Alex, let me say what I see and then you
Yeah.
help me. This is one of your slides and it's the French electric power mix. So this is a slide that explains how much of various types of energy the country of France is using, the type, to meet its energy requirements.
Right.
And I think I see an orange fossil
Right.
fuel. So that's oil, coal, and,
Right.
and it would be gas also.
Yes, I mean the mixture of fossil fuels that were used in France at the time of the OPEC embargo in the mid 70s, early
Now,
70s.
as I look at it, just the fossil fuel usage from 1950 to 2000, it really does not grow.
No, it shrinks greatly.
And
As the population increases and it receives, it's attenuated greatly.
okay, and I see hydro,
Yeah.
dams, waterfalls,
Yes.
rivers. It's steady. for
Yeah,
the
and that
most
can be
part.
imported, some of it imported, some of it within France, some from Switzerland.
And it looks like around 1970, all that green is
Right.
green because it's clean, I believe, and
Yes.
it's nuclear.
It's the nuclear power that they developed in the 70s.
So it seems to me, looking at this, more of France's energy is both generated from nuclear energy and it is real clean
Right.
energy. Am I
Right.
correct?
Yes, exactly. And then so what you could say is that, okay, if their plan in the future is to go with electric vehicles, they've already got the clean source of power that they need to do that. The other thing is that if you notice when that inflection point occurred, what France did when they decided to release themselves from the clutches of OPEC was to say, okay, how are we going to do this? They're intelligent, they studied the problems and said, okay, we'll go to the United States, we'll buy a design from Westinghouse of a standard reactor and we'll mass produce it. And that's exactly what they did. The other thing to note there is that a decade before, President Kennedy said, he created a commission, tell us what to do for America's energy future. And the commission came back within a few months, pretty quick, and they said, nuclear power. So in the 60s, we knew what to do. In the 70s, France knew and did it. We didn't quite do it enough because of our business interests don't really allow us to select the best of anything at any given time because of the competition that's
Okay,
involved.
I'm always concerned about waste.
Yeah.
So here is my question. In 1 year of generating all the electricity the country of France needs,
Right.
and I guess 70% of it is being generated by nuclear energy.
Right.
How much waste is generated in 1 year to meet all of the energy needs in that France?
Well,
How much waste is created?
It's very small because you may remember Einstein's equation E equals mc squared. C squared is a very, 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 very huge number, so m is very small.
Speed of light.
So the waste, yes.
Oh.
Yeah, so the m, the mass that you have to consume in a nuclear reactor, is extremely small to give you a much larger amount of energy than you would get from, let's say, burning fuel or something of that sort. So the waste for France would be something on the order of 2 pinky fingers of material, like uranium, per person per 5 years, per decade, let's say per decade, because it's two pinky fingers away. So if you have 2 pinky fingers that you have to figure out how to get rid of every decade for every person, that's really not very much waste at all. If we look at the United States, we have waste from coal power plants that amounts to 100 million tons just for one company's power plants. 100 million tons, and there's only 300 million of us, so, you know.
So I have to be sure I understand this. You're saying for a decade,
yeah,
the people of France can get all the clean, not renewable, you know, because renewables really has
they have their other waste, yeah.
All of the energy France needs for a decade comes out to a waste about that much?
A couple of pinky fingers worth of fission products and what are called transuranics, which are the heavier elements than uranium. Now, France already, for years, has recycled their nuclear power plant output. So some people call everything that comes out of a nuclear reactor after 5 years or whatever as waste, but it's not. It's 95% or 94, 95% plain old uranium like you got from the ground. So you don't really want to throw it away because you spent money mining it, refining it, and enriching it. So that 94%, the French separate out, and then they glassify and to bury the small amount, the 2 pinky fingers per French citizen.
Glassify, they put them in glass.
Basically, you fuse whatever it is you don't want. Now, some of those things you want because some are used for medicine, some are used for, they're not radioactive, they've decayed and are now stable. You can use them for catalytic converters and all sorts of things.
So listening to you, I find it's difficult because the situation is different in the United States and in France to talk about leadership because the United States has not invested in nuclear and cannot call upon those benefits now.
Right.
And so it's still going to have to tap into the suppliers of electricity in this state that are still providing us, I think they're still providing us cleaner and cleaner electricity, electricity generated from less and less fossil fuel. But still, they're relying heavily and will have to rely on fossil fuel for a long time. Would you help me there?
Well, yeah, so people have recognized in different states in the United States. So in France, they have one agency that's responsible for the nuclear power. So there's no arguing about who's going to build the plant or all that kind of thing. Here we have different companies, and we have some foreign companies that are involved in building nuclear plants. We have other issues state by state because it's very, very political. So as a result of the fact that people don't understand how little waste there is from nuclear power, we have different opinions in different states, and therefore different state legislatures do different things. So for instance, New York has recently said, okay, we recognize the cleanliness of nuclear power, so we're going to count it in our list of power sources that are clean. And so they call it a zero emissions credit, not renewables credits or anything like that. We call it zero emissions credits. And so that has helped the nuclear industry in the United States well. But we still have problems, like we have the VC Summer plant in South Carolina, I believe, that has to be fixed. Things like that isn't being finished.
Okay.
All
Now-
that sort of thing.
Now, Macron, is that how you pronounce his name?
Macron? Yeah.
President?
Yeah. France.
What has he said? What were some of the salient statements he's made about the direction of California's climate plan?
Or France's.
France's,
Yeah.
besides inviting the talent of the United States to leave the Trump world and go and work for him. What
Well,
else
the
has he
climate
said?
plan, I made some notes here about the climate plan that we looked at earlier. And basically his statements and his minister's statements are that they want to make sure the Paris Agreement that was signed is maintained and not destroyed. They want to make, their basic goal is that citizens' lives in France should be improved
Good.
as much as possible. We talked about abandoning fossil fuel and electrifying transport. They have a general commitment to fight climate change, and some of the mechanisms for doing that include agriculture and more ecological efforts within the bounds of France. And they want to be a leader in what everybody thinks of as the clean economy around the world. And they want to assist other countries to improve their profile in terms of emissions and clean.
Very good. And then I think I read he wants to make Paris the green financial capital.
That would make sense. Yeah.
What does that mean, the green financial? In other words, investing in green projects?
Yes, it's a difficult thing, because in order to do something that actually implements what the word green is trying to convey, one has to look very carefully, very scientifically, a lot of engineering evaluation of what really is clean. So, for instance, a hydroelectric system in Sweden or Norway can be very clean. But in Brazil, not so much, because there's not quite the same elevation changes. An engineer will tell you that the stagnant water behind the dam will breed diseases, and so that there are a lot of different considerations. There's not an automatic greenness to any one particular idea that somebody has.
All right. Now, Alex, I appreciate what you're sharing with us. And I was wondering if we could change the approach a little bit. If we could come back here and stand by
Sure.
this painting. And, and first, I want to share, and you know this, and you've been a great advisor to me. I am painting the 6 goals of California's climate plan. And this is just 1/3 of a painting that I'm working on right now on goal number 2, which is to reduce the amount of oil in vehicles in the California marketplace. And I just want to share my thinking, and I know you helped me with a lot of this. And again, this is just 1/3. The next time I do a TV show, I'm going to have the whole thing. But I'm trying to show here that this is like a sponge. It's got oil in it. This arm comes out, and it's squeezing out the oil, and it's going down here, and it's going to disappear. You know, the government of California has projects, plans, policies to squeeze it out. And then we all know, and when you see this, when it's finally finished, there'll be like a lightning bolt here, electricity. Maybe there'll be a battery from a flashlight here. We all know the electric car is coming. And, and that is further going to team up with the state. And of course, the state is going to give us subsidies to help make the cars more attractive. The car and the actions of the state of California are going to continue to squeeze the oil out, and what's going to happen then, Alex? Why do we need something as big as this?
Well, you have to be able to charge up the cars. And that's what, as I said, that's what France already has created, a clean source of energy that can be used to run their high-speed rail or charge up EVs that they're going to require.
Yeah.
They're not going to make it optional.
Yes. And so the governor has set a goal of 5 million cars, electric cars.
Right, right.
And I guess
I
I
don't-
talked to some, not governors, mayors of cities, and they tell me it's pretty hard for them to see how they
Yeah.
can
Right.
get more out of the transportation sector just in their own community.
Yeah, I think that the problem in California is the forecast for the penetration of electric vehicles has been much slower than was originally.
Okay. We don't have much time left,
Right.
but let me just say, so this is going to turn out to be a PG&E or one of the other or all of the other utilities, tower or generator, and from here, you know, and there'll be gas turbines here because I think we're going to generate a lot of gas turbines, need them, and solar.
Well, that's what we do today in California, yeah.
And that's going to be feeding over here to the chargers, the hundreds and hundreds of thousands of chargers that we need to fuel
The
these
EV
cars.
business,
And with that, I want you to know, Alex, that we have pretty much used up the time.
Okay.
And so, my guest has been Alex Canara, and I'm Michael Killen, and thank you very much. Alex,
Okay.
you got
Did
what
it.
you wanted.
Thank you.